Now, in the three-step process of organizational intelligence, we now get to the final step, and that is business intelligence. And probably most of the students in this class are currently working in this area or will ultimately be working in this area. So they are downstream from the analytics intelligence people and the data intelligence people. And as was referenced earlier, the job of business intelligence is to understand the information that comes out of analytics. So the analytics guys took the data, found out information, and then they sent it downstream to the business intelligence people, and they have to understand what the significance of that information is and then turn it into strategy and action. Now, some of the strategy that they'll have is customer treatment strategies. This could be things like they get information related to, certain customers have very high net worth, but the mom and dad have billions of dollars on deposit in a bank, but their children, Billy and Susie, are bouncing checks, and it costs $20 every time they bounce the check. So the business intelligence person is, well, you know what? We're going to waive that $20 fee because we don't want to make mom and dad mad and have them leave the bank, even though Billy and Susie are bouncing checks. So that would be a customer treatment strategy where the managers are looking at a big picture scenario and realizing it's of greater value to keep a high value customer happy, and maybe you eat a small loss otherwise. Other types of strategy that they have is customer retention and acquisition strategies. So you could look at it and you could say, well, we have a group of customers over here that seem to value service over price, and you have another group of people. Once you have your customers put into buckets, for example, you can realize what they value, and you can say, well, this group here, service is something that is of high value, and it might be expensive to have, let's say, a concierge service if you're an insurance company and you want to bring a person to rent a car, pick up their damaged car and drop it off at their door. That could be very expensive. However, if the person is willing to pay for it, you now can get profit, and you can keep this customer happy. And so retaining a valuable customer requires strategy. You have to figure out what they want, and then you have to figure out a good way to deliver that service to them. Also, strategy is customer acquisition. Your retention model is also somebody else's acquisition model. So if I can figure out what makes my customers happy, I can go over to my competitors and get cut and possibly take their customers away by saying, hey, we have a concierge service here that Joe's insurance company doesn't have, and you can maybe steal valuable customers away. Product offerings is another thing that the business intelligence people will do. You can say, going back to the previous example, you can say, well, this concierge service was a product offering. You find a group of customers that value service and they're unhappy. You realize the analytics people say this is a group of customers that have high attrition rates. They are worth a lot of money to us. Our text mining analytics suggests from their emails that they value services, and you then realize that this valuable group of customers are leaving. You then have created a new product, the concierge service. This is not just limited to this. There's lots of things that the very products that you offer, for example, Victoria's Secret, for example, has over the years branched into other things like, for example, perfume and bath oils and other things that are ancillary to women's apparel. So you do your research and you can now offer new products. Another thing that business intelligence is, you can look at customer channels. So you can say, figuring out where your customers buy. Do they buy in stores? Do they buy on the internet? Would they buy with a home sales rep? This is another strategy that once you figure out where your customers are buying, you can decide that a store might be at a particular corner. Let's put up another gas station over here, or a grocery store. It might be ideally situated next to a gas station, or Amazon is now delivering groceries via the internet. So these are strategies. You can bring in home sales reps, for example, specialty products. People like them in home. You bring wine into somebody's home. They will bring candles, or something that you don't. They have like those parties and such. Those are the kind of strategies that a business intelligence person will be able to derive once they get the information from the analytics people. Now, the methods that are used to understand the information that they get, there are several primary methods. One is just a simple report. You have the analytics guy do the model, and they write up a report, and they say, this is our findings, and they write it in, and they send it off as an email or a PDF attachment. That's primitive, of course. I mean, I'm not in a derogatory sense, but it's old-fashioned, but it really works, and it's still probably, in my opinion, the most widely used method for getting information to the managers and also business intelligence. The people in the business intelligence don't necessarily have to be the CEO or the CMO or people of that nature. You can also anybody downstream from analytics. So it can be a very specific department, like the marketing department, or the person in charge of the bank tellers. Whoever is consuming the information that the analytics people are discovering, those are the people who need a way of understanding this data. An OLAP cube is a term that you will hear if you're in business intelligence. This is a tool that used to be used quite frequently, not so much anymore because they've been replaced by dashboards. But an OLAP cube is just a way of slicing and dicing data on several different dimensions. And think of a cube or a dice, and you'll say that maybe product lines would be on the horizontal axis, time was on the vertical, and I don't know, amount of sales would be on the z-axis. But what happens is you can visualize the data in many different dimensions and look for trends. Probably an easy way of thinking about this would be an Excel spreadsheet is technically an OLAP cube with 2 dimensions. It doesn't have to have 3 dimensions. Of course, the more dimensions you put into an OLAP cube, the more likely it is the more difficult it is to understand. But a 2-dimensional spreadsheet, you can just sort of look at it and look for patterns. So, as I mentioned before, this is not as widely used as it used to be, but when you hear the term OLAP cube, it shouldn't make your eyes glaze over. It's no mystery. But an executive dashboard is a graphical display that is generally, in the past it was displayed in a web browser, but now it's used, they're gaining a lot more utilization because people have access to iPhones and tablets and other types of technology. And so you can be on the train commuting to work and you're the CEO or a manager or something, and you can get a report and read it using the dashboard. And I'm going to use this as an example of what a dashboard might look like. I found this one on the internet, and I found it to be a particularly good example of what is a dashboard. A dashboard is a way to look at information and data that a person needs to do their job, but you don't necessarily, if you're a manager, you do not necessarily want to look at a regression model or a time series forecast with all the statistics behind it. You want this data to be presented to you in a format that is easy for you to consume and get a big picture of what your job is to be. So what I liked about this particular example is it's a very clean example and paints a very nice picture here for this executive. This executive is interested in online sales of tickets, and behind each of these dots is likely a model of some kind or a data query that is being presented. So this person here, he just sees a button, a green dot here that says that 15 people visit the average time spent on the home page before logging in is 15 milliseconds. Now, there's a bunch of statistics that calculated that, and you can see that the person says, well, there was 608 requests per minute, no mistakes. The logins take 20 milliseconds. So these are good. This person can just look at the green bar. He doesn't care about the number per se, but he can look at this green dot and say, well, okay, this is good. It's not taking too long. There's no errors. And all of a sudden, he can see this red dot here that suggests that there are a lot of a longer than expected time to purchase tickets. There's probably a delay of some kind. Maybe there's an interruption in the internet server. But this is a red dot, and this executive can instantly look at this and say, I gotta have to fix this problem. And he also can see, whoa, wow, I got 7,000 errors down here. There's something going on. But overall, we've got a good situation going on here, and we've got an okay. So this is an example of an executive consuming information from analytics and data in a format that they need to see this in order to do their job. That's an executive dashboard. So those are becoming quite common, and a lot of software out there will generate this type of executive dashboard. And again, it can be completely customized to the needs of the individual and the organization. Some common business intelligence tools that you will encounter. The first two that are more of an enterprise level tools would be SAP Business Objects and MicroStrategy. You'll hear those two a lot, and they cater to a market of large organizations, and they tend to be things that if you've got a very big company that's a Fortune 500, this is where these guys play, where I see them the most. They will generate reports, they'll generate dashboards, and allow anyone in the organization to consume and understand data and information in, again, the format that they need to see it. Tableau and some other smaller visualization tools, two that I can think of that I see a lot are Qlik and Spotfire. They tend to go for smaller markets. As of now, they do, and they have a lot of tools that reside on people's laptops. So it allows people to do data visualization and reporting right there, just like Excel is a tool that is on everybody's desktop, and you don't have to necessarily be an accountant or an analytics expert to use Excel. Same thing with these tools. Now, Tableau and Qlik and Spotfire, of course, will, as they are growing, they're beginning to move into the larger enterprise level. But right now, they're known as the time of the writing of this course for being sort of smaller versions of these tools. But they're very highly respected tools, and you'll encounter these as well. And as I mentioned before, Excel is a very widely used tool in business intelligence. It's also used a lot in data and analytics. But you will find most executives are quite adept at using Excel for graphing and doing all sorts of analytics, and they can really make that tool sing for them. So just because it's not necessarily one of these sexy tools that you've never heard of before, Excel is widely used, and any business intelligence person, it would be wise to become an expert in Excel. Other functions that BI people will do that usually falls under their umbrella is they determine an organizational level or reliance on analytics. And when they invest money, when the boss invests money in analytics people and in tools, that sends a very clear signal to the organization that this analytics is important, and people will begin to just naturally rely on the analytics. If somebody in the analytics group says, we have to go after this market, or this market looks like it can be very profitable. If the boss is not investing money and time and resources into the analytics, people may not even do anything about that. Whereas if major initiatives are being placed in analytics and data, that's when people begin to take notice. So they set the tone of an organization for how much people will respect the work that comes out of the analytics. Also, another function of the business intelligence is to initiate models to the analytics group. Now, obviously, the analytics team can decide what models to build on their own, and many times they do. However, the BI people, as they begin to understand information that's coming out of analytics, what they'll do is say, well, gee, we've now discovered that this group of people is a growing segment of customers. How profitable are they? So then the analytics people will turn around and build a profitability model. Then you'll say, well, how long do they stay? Well, they don't stay very long, so either we don't go after them, even though they're profitable, or what's going to make them stay? So that's the kind of work that the BI people will drive the analytic initiatives, and also they will approve the spending of analytics and databases within the organization. Usually, but not always, but usually all roads lead back to these guys. So again, when the analytics people are saying if you really want to know where we can find, if you found this new segment of customers that you want to pursue, we're going to have to go out and buy third-party data in order to know if this is going to be, in order for us to do our analytics. Ultimately, the BI guy is going to have to write a check, and he's going to have to say, yes, this is worth our spending this kind of money. And the DI people, the data people, are going to say, well, yeah, and then we're going to have a bigger database to hold this stuff. So usually the business intelligence people are ultimately, not only do they set the tone for the organization's trust in analytics, but they actually have to write the checks. So that's the big picture of analytics intelligence within the organization. And I'm assuming that for the most part, the audience for this class will probably reside in this group, although a lot of them will also be data intelligence people.